Hello, I'm Gary Slyman, President and Founder of Great Transition Strategies. Today's topic, the leadership impact of humble leadership. Quick story from a client. COVID, healthcare worker in a county system at a dispersed site. 200 people in the organization, 150 of them work at dispersed sites with teams of 2 to 5. 50 people working in a headquarters building. COVID, headquarters building goes to a very small percentage. Most folks work remotely. The dispersed sites, they still serve their clientele out at their sites, implementing protocols, all the restrictions that we saw going on with COVID from the very beginning. So this client I had, she's comes to me, and when we were working together, incredibly frustrated with her leadership. Here's what she experienced. Meetings that were monthly in-person group meetings, and then supervisors visiting, the visiting supervisor stopped. In 1 year, she saw a supervisor twice, and that's because they had to do a compliance inspection. The monthly meetings that they met in person turned into virtual, and they were less than monthly. Meetings were very top-down, direction, do these, here's the things you need to do. Where the folks in the field are trying to get questions answered, ask questions, wanting to be collaborative, that wasn't happening. Send me an email, we'll get back to you, we'll let you know. The group, what the impression from my client was, the leadership did not know what was going on, and they didn't want anyone else to know. They didn't have the answers, and they didn't want anyone else to know. The folks in the field wanted to collaborate and wanted to say, here's the problems we're having, here's how we're solving them, here's what's going on. That's what she was trying to do. Couldn't get that. Wow, how frustrating is that? So what is humble leadership? Humble leadership, when you look it up, you find that there's a lot of different definitions of, but it's basically, these are the elements. Leadership is relation. It's all about relationships and not about transactions. It's about leaders being vulnerable and saying, I don't know, when they don't know something, and asking for input. Not being afraid to get input from those deeper in the organization. So it is really being vulnerable, asking questions, and increasing the level of communication. And it's okay to say, I don't know, but we're going to figure this out together. Not what happened in this organization. Jim Collins, in his book, Good to Great, every company that went from good to great had what he called a level 5 leader, which was marked by the traits of great personal drive and ambition, and personal humility. They're very humble individuals, but their drive and ambition was about the organization, not about them personally. So let's flip this. Let's say I just gave you some elements of humble leadership in Jim Collins' piece. What if the leaders in this organization acted humbly? What might have happened here? Well, one, they would have realized they probably would have communicated a lot more, visited the folks out in the field because they had relationships with them. They didn't just have leadership transactions. They probably would have increased their level of communication, so that would have gone up. And they would have said, look, we don't know. As we're working through this and we're getting more guidance from the CMC, we're going to include you, we'll tell you what we have, but we're going to work through this together so we can get our protocols in place and we're all on the same sheet of music here. Because one of her frustrations was no one's on ever the same sheet of music. They're in a county working in different organizations. The county health department has some protocol, but that organization they're making different protocols. Oh my goodness. Very, very frustrating. So this is a case, increase the level of communication. Here's what we don't know. We need your help. Let's include you. All those things might have created a very synergistic environment where the problem became the enemy as opposed to the leadership being the enemy. Because the folks in the trenches felt left out and they started turning against and thinking and ignoring the leadership. So this is about the impact in your organization. So how do you know whether you are a humble leader or not? I think let's ask some simple questions. Do we have relationships with everyone, or are we using transactional leadership? How often have we said at the top, we don't know, and then asked for input from those in the organization to help us solve the problem? Do we communicate fully with them? And particularly when things go bad, do we increase our level of communication? All simple ways to determine whether you are led humbly or not. So think about what we just talked about. Here's a case. This was an actual case of how someone had a problem during COVID with their organization. What is humble leadership? We talked about what it might be and what this might have looked like. And here's one way to test your organization. Hope you found that helpful. I look forward to an opportunity to work with you and help you develop the leadership in your organization.